Well, we're joined by Paul O'Brien from the Association of Public Service Excellence, which advises its members, including Trafford and Liverpool, on providing services. So, Paul, first of all, are councils increasingly taking these services back in-house or not?
Well, there's a growing trend that's been evident since about 2004-05 that lots of authorities are taking services back in-house, based on research that we've done over the years. I think in 2008 we looked at over 100 examples. In 2011 we looked at another 185 examples.
And why is that?
Well, it's probably based on the experience that they've had of the contracts been out there, and maybe not necessarily, the grass not necessarily been greener in the way they thought it was going to be. Issues around about performance, issues around about maybe not necessarily delivering the efficiency savings that were first promised, and issues about customer satisfaction as well.
Yeah, because that's the thing. For years we've been told if we put these services out to the private sector, it'll be more efficient, it'll save money for local council taxpayers. Has that not proved to be the case?
Not in every instance, not in lots of instances. There's lots of authorities that have taken a legitimate policy decision to go one way, and lots that have taken that same decision, or the opposite decision, to go the other way. That's a decision for local authorities to take. It's a legitimate policy position that they can choose to pursue.
So what do you think, Seema? Do you think that Liverpool's right or Trafford?
I don't think there's an ideological way to empty the bins. I think that what people want, residents want, their bins to be collected efficiently, and they don't want to pay too much for it. I think comparing it with the 80s, when the only thing we couldn't put in our bin was hot ashes, it's a completely different game. And I know you advise on lots of different areas of local government, but this is a massive thing now. We've all got 4 different bins, and recycling and refuse collection has changed very much. So if you are a small borough council like I have, you're just not going to have the scale to run it small in-house.
This isn't just about bins, of course. This is about wider public council services. What do you think?
Well, frankly, I take my hat off to all local authority leaders at the moment coping with the level of cuts that they've got. And I think Councillor Mumby, my good friend there from Liverpool, said it in exactly the right way. They're just trying to get efficiency so that they can do more with less.
But that's what Sean Nancy's trying to do in Trafford as well.
Because they have definitely got less. That is the truth.
But that's what your friend in Trafford's trying to do as well.
Well, I think that people will try and find efficiencies in different ways, and that's a good thing. But the sort of unspoken bit of the report there is the way that councils have had to manage these cuts. And it is not just, it is the scale of the cuts, but also the fact that they're having to deal with budget from year to year, rather than what I would rather see, which is central government come to a longer-term funding settlement with local government that would help them plan better for the future, and then they could really help get efficiencies over a longer period of time.
Paul?
Yeah, I think Seema makes an important point as well about 4 different bins now. That wasn't the case 10 years ago when people first entered into contracts. And the point Alison makes as well about huge cuts that have taken place in 2010, since 2010. If you're locked into those long-term contracts, you do not have the same flexibility you've got in-house in order to make those changes.
Is there more money for councils to save, do you think?
I think there'll be significant further savings that local authorities will need to make. How they find that savings is getting increasingly difficult.
Do you think it's got to the point where services will be damaged?
I think undoubtedly it's getting to that point now where the public will start to see a difference in the coming years in the level of service they're starting to receive.
Are you willing to see that continue, Seema?
Well, in South Ribble, my council has just had a new recycling contract, and they've saved £500,000, and there's going to be no change in the level of service that you'll see at your gate when you put your bin out. And a lot of that is about education, about teaching people how to triage their rubbish, things like that.
But, of course, the question will be, once that is in place, whether it works as well, and other contracts as well. Because, obviously, in Liverpool's case, they did go out to the private sector and discovered for them it just didn't prove to be as efficient.
Well, that's Liverpool Council, that's their decision to make. I would go back to my first point. Council taxpayers want a good service at the best price.
Final comment, Alison?
Well, I just think, the idea that services haven't been damaged already. As I was in my constituency office this afternoon, I had a letter from somebody about Sure Start services being cancelled, and like left, right and centre, local authorities are having to stop doing things that we know that our communities wanted and made the North West a good place to live. So I think we've got to sort of take a look at how we can do much better to fund local government.
It's not all about funding. It is partly about funding, but it's how you use that. How efficient can you be? How do you deploy those resources? And there are innovative ways that local government can react.
Okie dokes. Paul, thank you very much indeed for coming in. It's time for the rest of the week's news now. Here's Claire Freeman with 60 Seconds.